Greetings everyone, Greg Moss here, and in this video I'm going to show you how to create a custom Odoo application in a matter of minutes using Odoo Studio. Now, I think you're going to like this video, so make sure to click like and subscribe down below and click that little notification icon so that you can be notified when I release new videos. So, Odoo Studio is easy to set up and use. I've already installed it, and you can tell that by having the little toggle studio icon here on the right. If you don't have it installed, you can go into apps, just type in studio here, and you will be brought up where you'd have an install here to install Studio. So just as simple as that, Studio is installed. This is a blank database. I'm going to toggle Studio now so that I can create an application. And you'll see here that we have a new app button. And so I can click this button to start creating a new app. We get a nice little welcome to Odoo Studio message here, and I can click next to begin creating our app. Now for this application, we're going to create just a little simple veterinary app to keep track of pets, their owners, what breed they are, their species, that kind of thing. We're going to do this really quickly, and you're going to see how easy it is to do. And there's also going to be some good functionality in here as well. So make sure you stay up till the end because I'm going to show you some really cool things. So I'm going to choose the app. I'm just going to call it Vet App, and you can pick like a background here for it as well, and an icon. Maybe we'll go back and put a little animal icon here that's custom at some point. Here we want to choose, it says create your first menu, choose your first object name. Now objects, sometimes called models, and I use them interchangeably here. Odoo here, you'll say it says choose your first object name, and then here it says new model or existing model. So it is the same thing. Now for our vet app, we are going to create a new model for animals, and I'm calling this model animal because they could be a bird, a cat, a dog, a horse, because there are vets that take care of big animals. So we're going to name this new model animal. And that's also going to create a menu for us. I can capitalize this because this is the name that we're going to be referring to it as. And I hit next. And now this is a really nice new feature in Odoo 14's Odoo Studio where you get to pick all the features for your existing model. Now, I'm not going to put a ton of these on here because I want to kind of keep it simple. But one of the ones I can add are notes. So it allows us to keep notes on the animal. It just adds that extra field for us. And another one that we'll add are the pictures here. Now, I was testing it out, and I'm going to actually add tags too. So we are adding 3 things: tags, notes, and pictures. And we're going to show how we can use those. Now, some of these other things could also be used as well. And let's add user assignment, and we'll see how we can make user assignment basically a place where we could have like a primary vet for our animal. And I'm going to hit create your app, and it's now going to create this model for us with all these kind of pre-built in fields that we won't have to add. We could have added them later, but this kind of gives them to us. So here it brings us up to a form in which we can design the layout for this particular model. In this case, it is animal. And we're going to begin by coming here to where it says responsible, and I can click on this. It says click, but you really kind of have to double click sometimes. And I'm going to change this to say primary vet. And so this would just be, since this is who's responsible in terms of Odoo's internal mechanisms, that means it's going to line up with an internal employee. So therefore we can assign internal employees to be vets. So this handles us assigning a primary veterinarian for our animal. Now, let's go ahead and just see how we can add a few extra fields here. Now, actually, I'm going to close this so we can see how this would work. And so I'm going to use my bird, BB Bird, which she's an African gray parrot that I actually own. And she has a primary vet, but I will probably make up somebody just for privacy purposes. And we'll say that her primary vet is Bob Sacramento. And if we click and it brings this up, you'll see that this is prompting us to provide information, as this is an internal user inside of the Odoo instance. So that's right there, we're able to basically create new records inside there for internal employees and assign who the primary vet is without any trouble. Now, what might we use tags for? So let's just see why that might be built in. One thing might be aggressive, which BB is not aggressive, but for animals that are, you might have that as a tag. Now, one thing that I've noticed, if you type really fast and hit enter, it almost always takes like the first three things. So if I went like fast and hit like that, notice there are four this time. It took the first four letters. So just something to keep in mind that at least I found if you're a fast typist, you got to be careful and make sure that you can click there to get it. So, and that's just general Odoo. So you can see how I'm adding these tags and how they could get out of hand. But like if you had aggressive, another one might be special diet, you know, something like that. And so, and you can see how it cut it off again because I typed real fast. So there's how you could use tags to do certain things that you don't have to add custom fields for every little thing. These tags work really well for things where you wouldn't want to just clutter your models with a lot of fields. And obviously we have a place up here for the picture. So I can click this edit button and I have a picture here, a BB grape or something. And so that's how you could quickly have a little simple animal thing. And I haven't even added any extra fields or done anything to customize this yet. And so now let's see how we can start actually building out this as an actual app. If I click back here on Odoo Studio, this is going to take me back in to edit the form. Let's go ahead and add some things that would be kind of common to have. So one might be the weight. You know, we weigh BB frequently, and that would be something that a vet would want to keep track of. So we can take over here this under new fields, because this is something new we're adding, and drag this decimal onto here, just like this. And let's say weight. And it is really just that simple. And what we might want to say here in the tooltips is weight in grams, or maybe kilograms. And spell that right. And so this gives you a way to add that field, and you can see that now we have a place to have weight. Now, another thing we might have, and we want to see a different field type, is we might have a chip, like BB is microchipped. So she has a chip that can identify her. And so we can see how we could do that as well. So let's take this checkbox here and drag over here. And so dogs, cats, pretty much every animal now, it's probably a good idea to microchip them. Microchipped. And so we have a microchipped field. You'll want to make sure you click off of this or hit enter and that you see some action here before you just click add. I've had trouble where if I type something and hit add, sometimes it doesn't save it. Odoo 14 is a lot better. So if you are serious about Odoo Studio, you probably want to be on 14 if you can be. Now, here under microchipped, we'd have to have an ID for this or some kind of code. And there'd probably be other things you might want to have, like who the company is that did the chip, and you'd probably create a whole nother model for this at some point, possibly. But in this case, we're going to keep it simple, and we're going to drag in a text field here for our ID. So I'm going to come here and we'll say microchip ID and hit enter. And so now we have a place to hold both of these. And if I come and hit close again, we can just test out if these three fields we added, just so we can see. We have the weight. BB is usually about 435 maybe grams, so it should be 0.435 kilograms. And then microchipped here, that she is microchipped. And we put the ID in. So we've got a very basic record here. Now, obviously, there'd be a bunch more fields, things that you might want to collect, but I wanted to just give you an example of some of the basic fields you can add here. Now, what we would now want to do is have like the breed or species, and we really need both. So species would be like bird, cat, dog. breed would be, like in this case, BB's an African gray. But you could have parakeets, you could have cockatiels, you know, all kinds of birds. Obviously, in the dog species, you'd have breeds of, you know, golden retriever, German shepherd, miniature dachshund, that kind of thing. So let's see how we could do that. Now, one way you could do that with what you already know here would be to come down here and add a text field. We'll put it here for breed. And you could say breed here. But the problem with this is people are typing in breeds and it get kind of crazy and people wouldn't use the same notations and spelling and stuff. So we don't really want a text field for this. And I kind of did this so you can just see if you need to remove something, you can just come down here and say remove from view and it is gone. Now, what we want to do is create a model for breeds and a model for species. And we're going to do that really quickly. So we want to come up here where we see new model and we can give it a name. We're going to call it species. And so this will be the species. And in this case, we don't really want that open chatter at the bottom because this is just a list of species. We might want the notes to keep some notes on the species. We could have a picture, but let's keep it simple. And we'll just have basically what we're doing this for is to have a list of species. And if we now close our, we want to close our Odoo Studio so we can put in here bird. So that'd take care of BB right there. But now we can create a cat as another species. And let's do dog. So we'll just do the three, probably some of the most common that a vet would have. And we can, of course, add more. That's the beauty of this. And if we click on this now, you'll notice that it does have a list view and so forth. Now, let's go ahead now and add our breed model. So we come up here, toggle to Studio, and we're going to create a new model for breed. So we go breed like this and configure the model. And once again, we don't need the chatter for breed, so we can add our notes. And let's just go ahead and add a picture for the fun of it, because you could, just as you could see, have a picture so that when people are looking at the different breeds, it's not just a bunch of text, but they could see like a representative picture for the breed, which, you know, that might actually be helpful with like a new receptionist that comes in and maybe is still kind of new to all the various kinds of breeds of animals there are. So now with breed, every breed is going to have an associated species. So now is where it kind of gets fun. If I come up here, let's go ahead and add a couple of breeds. And so BB is an African gray. And let's create another breed. And I also have a miniature dachshund. Sure. How spell check gets us and saves us miniature dachshund. Dachshund. I think I'm getting close enough so that we get there. Yeah, miniature dachshund. I'll save. And so let's do a cat. One cat, two. Actually, let's do another bird so we can see how we can go between them. Like that. So we have now these breeds. And if we click breed here again, you'll see we have the three breeds. But all of these breeds are going to be associated with a species. So in other words, BB's a bird. This is a miniature dachshund, is a dog, and then we have another bird. And so we want to maintain that here inside of our breed. And so this is where we learn our first relational field that we can add to our application. And by a relational field means is we can relate one model to another model. And we've already kind of seen that in the animal model where we related to the responsible user, but we relabeled that primary vet. Now that was set up for us. Now we're going to see how we can relate to another model. And we do that. We first come in here to our Odoo Studio and we're on our breed. And what we want to do is make a relationship to species. And we're going to do that by using this many to one. And you'll notice there's a one to many. and there's a many to one, there's a many to many. Most often when you're building out, you're going to use these many to ones to create that relationship inside of, like you'll see here, where we have one animal or one breed in this case, that's going to, or in this case, one species, I should say, that could relate to many different breeds. So you got to think of it that way. It can be a little confusing at first time, but just usually many to one is usually what you're going to be using when you're trying to relate an item of, like in this case, the breed, that could be, one species can be across a lot of breeds. And so we're going to drag this out and we're going to drag it in here, and it's going to ask for the relation. And it's really just a matter here of saying species, so that we can say that we want to relate species here and assign a species to this particular breed. And you'll notice down here under widget it says many to one, and you have options here too that you can use, such as disable creation, disable opening, obviously some help text as well. So there's some options here. We're not going to go deep into it because the idea here is just to get you a taste of how you build out an app and not be exhaustive. So now notice here, when I come in and edit, we can assign African gray as the species of bird here, and to the bird species. So if we create another breed, so we could create another breed, Siamese. I spelled that right. And they're a cat, and I can hit save. And if we go back up under breed, we can see here African gray, miniature Siamese. But if I click on these, I can drill in and see. And so we could set these up now for all of our breeds like that. Now we'd probably want to display the species here. That's very easy to do in Odoo Studio. So we're going to come back in the Odoo Studio. And notice now we want to come down to existing fields. So anytime we're creating new fields, those are up here, but existing fields are down here. And I can literally take and drag that onto here. I should be able to, just like that. And there we go. And so now we can see the species that is related to a particular breed. And that's the simple thing of how to create that. So now we need to go to the animal model. So if we go to animal, you'll see here, we haven't put any of the breeds or species on our animal yet. So let's do that. We're going to come here to edit, and I'm sorry, I didn't need to edit here. You can just leave that as is. We want to go to Odoo Studio up here on the right and toggle it back on. And this time we're going to take again a many to one. So we're creating a new field in this animal model, just so we're real clear, and we're relating it to an already existing model. And so let's do that with breed. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to take this related field. I'm going to take this many to one field and drag it into here. And let's put it at the top, actually, because we want to have, probably the breed at the top. And so I can come down here, and it's just as simple now as choosing breed and hitting confirm, just like this. And if I save or close, here, I can go back in, and we can see just as easy as this. Now we can assign the African gray here as the breed. And so again, understanding these relationships allow you to build very complex apps, because you can relate models to models, and it can get more and more complex, obviously, than just what we have here. But this should give you a good place to start and understand how these things kind of fit together, right? So now from here, there's a couple of things we can do to make this application a little bit more friendly, and also help you understand some more capabilities you might have. So for one example, notice here we have microchipped as a Boolean, and we have a microchipped ID down here. Now, we probably don't need to show that this microchip ID if they're not microchipped. So we want to make this conditional, that we only show microchipped ID when this is checked. All right, so let's see how we can make this conditional here so that this only shows up when we check this. Now, this is the one that we're affecting. So this is where we're going to change whether it's visible or not. So make sure you got the right field you're working with here. And you want to come up here and just click invisible like this. And notice how it'll go away for a second, but don't panic. And actually, it took it away here. So this is confusing to me sometimes, and it'll mess you up too. So I had to bring it back to get back to it again and click on it again. And then we got to come here to our conditional here like this. So we click conditional, and we're going to click add filter and come down here to microchipped is false, set to false. So this is going to be invisible when microchipped is not set. Then, therefore, when it is set, this invisible property won't apply. So let's hit save, just like that, and close, and we'll see how this works. If I edit now, notice how if microchipped is not checked, you don't have a microchipped ID. So it's that simple, pretty slick, huh? All right, so let's do a little bit more than that. So now you've understood how to do conditional, properties. You see how to do related and relate models together. Now we're going to see how to do a related field, and we have a really practical example for that. Because breed, African gray, if we select the breed, we know that the species is a bird, but that's not really easy to display here because breed has species embedded inside of it as another field. And one of the easiest and cleanest ways to show information from a related model, as that's the way they call it, is using a related field. So let's see how we can do that. And click Odoo Studio, drag this related field right up under breed. And notice how it says select related field. So we know that the related field is inside of species, or inside of breed to start with, and then species, and then name. The name of the species is what we want as our related field. We hit confirm, and we'll notice here bird just pops right in there. Now we want to name this related field species, just like that, and we'll close. And we'll see how quickly we were able to create this really easy to use app. So I come here to African gray. If I change to miniature dachshund, it immediately changes to dog right there under species. If I pick African gray, bird, and so this reduces data entry. Notice we haven't set up our species for parakeet yet, so it's empty here. And the cat is, though, filled in. So you can just see how easy this is to create a related field. And so now there's just really one more thing that we want to add to this before we conclude this, and that's there's no owner right now. So we have the primary vet, and that's tied to an internal user in the company, which can be specified as the vet, but notice there's no owner. And so I would encourage you now to pause the video and take in what you've learned now and see if you cannot maybe add that yourself. Is like just a little challenge to see if you're able to do it without watching me. But if you wish, you can now watch me do it. So we want to always begin by toggling on Odoo Studio. And then here, we're going to want, again, a many to one. And we'll put the owner here at the very top. And for owner, because we haven't installed sales yet, and those things, which we would want to do and probably tie in for a real vet app for invoicing, all those things. But what we can do is just use contact, because that will work fine for us, because contacts are customers as well within the Odoo framework. They're just customers are a type of contact, a little bit resist. So just as simple as that. Now we have contact here. I can close. And that really is starting to show and demonstrating the power of the Odoo framework, especially in combination with Odoo Studio. I think that gives everyone who started this a pretty good idea of how you can build out a little simple app. We learned how to create new models. We learned how to create relationships between those models. We learned how to do some simple conditions to hide and show things that we don't need to see based on other fields in our model. And we learned how to do a related field so we could pull fields from models we're tied to and display them in our current model. Remember, if you like this video, make sure you click like below, subscribe, and click that notification icon. That really helps me. And leave comments down below if you'd like me to make another simple little app in Odoo Studio. I can do that. Now, there's a lot to learn in it, and this is a first cut for those who might be new to it. But as you can see, it's very powerful, and you can quickly, in the least, prototype an application without having to delve into Python and all that. So thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.